Thank you, Dan. That was great information. Now we'll have the opportunity to hear from some industry experts, and they'll be providing additional insight to the areas that Dan just covered for you. On our panel today, we have Scott Bean, Senior Director, Samsung Global Business to Government, Todd Maxwell, Business Development, Government, Samsung Electronics America, and Mike Bonnick, Federal Business Development, Display Division for Samsung Electronics America. So we're going to kick this off with Scott. Scott, you spent a lot of years implementing cybersecurity protections during your time with the FBI. Could you share some of the secure solutions for government and regulated industries that you're seeing?
Sure, Dale. So, first of all, what I was looking for in any of my partners, vendor partners, OEMs, people that produce solutions for us in government, I was really looking for a trusted partner, somebody who understood that we had information security concerns, cybersecurity concerns, and really had the horsepower to do what we needed to do in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The other thing I was looking for is somebody that had experience in scalability. So people that had the background in working with government, in responding to government mission needs, but also in terms of delivering a scalable solution that integrated well with the rest of what the FBI needed. I found that in Samsung, and especially because of what they do to support the mission across the intelligence community and the Department of Defense in the classified space. More than 90% of the solutions that are delivered in the classified space for mobility are Samsung solutions. And then also Samsung's experience with delivering Knox security, which secured our endpoint devices from the chipset all the way out to the end user. So those things really gave me some comfort and made me feel good about using our Samsung devices.
All right. Mike, could you add to Scott's comments from the perspective of hardware standards and product strategy?
Yeah, we continue to see agency security standards affect the traditional IT hardware from what you would think would be server storage or end client devices. But we're also seeing the same on display technology. And what's driven that is we are really in an IoT market where Wi-Fi is being driven down to devices everywhere. I recently got a new garage door opener and it came with Wi-Fi, or my speaker bar came with Wi-Fi. This isn't something that we've asked for. It's just being driven down from the technology. And we're seeing the same thing on display technology. Where it originally came out was the base level. It was more of a feature. So the base level, entry level devices were really stripped down. And then our premium devices had more connection devices sent in there like Wi-Fi. And what we're seeing today is now that's really become a standard across all different areas. But the challenge is back to the security officer at the agency is they want less devices to manage. So here we've got a display sitting on a wall connected to the agency's network, and it's connected to a Wi-Fi signal, which was designed so when you came into the conference room, you can connect your notebook and not worry about different dongles. But the concern is the agency, like I said, the agency security officer wants to minimize that. So what Samsung has done is really come out with a line of displays that are designed for the government agency that has removed any of these security concerns like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, even smart TV, which you would see more of in a consumer home TV. Mentioning more about what Scott talked about, which the Knox platform, which was, you may have known that, like we talked about with our phone technology, there's a Knox display technology that helps also add to additional security display standards in our displays. So really a whole set of displays designed with the security of the agency in mind there.
All right, so Todd, you frequently deal with agencies that have specific challenges such as compliance with CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information Services. What role does Samsung play in these situations?
I think whether it's CJIS or HIPAA or FIPS, I think our role is sort of guiding and advising on mobility implementation. No matter what size government agency you are, the one thing we find is that when they go to the security team or their auditors, they get a different result or a different answer on what mobility implementation is needed. And one of the things we kept getting this over and over from in California is we had multiple agencies implementing mobile devices at the government level. And every time they would call the state for CJIS access, they'd get a different response on what type of standards they need to roll out, whether it's soft certification, hard certifications. And so what we did is we went back to FBI CJIS and worked with Dale and our whole Samsung team and our Knox team, which Knox is our platform that you heard Scott and then Mike talk about, goes across the entire Samsung portfolio. And we really sort of redefined what it meant to implement security on mobility devices. And we started looking at what mobility meant for government agencies. And we started coming up with a way and a white paper that would help any agency implement any mobile device, whether it's Samsung or not. And the whole idea was to enable this mobility transformation that a lot of these agencies are asking for. So I guess to sum up, we really act as a liaison to help the agency implement the solutions they want on a mobile platform through their security requirements.
Understood. That's great. So back over to Scott. Dan mentioned COVID-related spending in his presentation. Can you give us any insight to global efforts that are assisting with vaccination tracking?
Sure, absolutely. This isn't easy. We all globally are struggling with how to effectively, safely, and securely document that people are complying with vaccine, that they are getting what they need, that they're not getting the wrong shot or at the wrong time. There's a lot of work that's going into this. And as Dan mentioned, there's a lot of money going into government and industry in trying to make sure that this is done and it's done safely and securely. So what we've done in a couple of different European countries, which frankly is a little bit easier than doing it here in the US, where we have such a dispersed system of healthcare, but in some European countries that have more of a single payer system, what we've done is we've used one of our rugged devices, the Xcover Pro, along with a software capability called Knox Capture, which allows us to use that smartphone to scan and import data into tracking software that allows us to do like a vaccine passport for folks that have gotten their vaccines, that can help them with future travel related documentation requirements, but also to help them keep track of when they got their first shot, when they're getting their second shot in these 2-shot regimes, and making sure that they can document that they are safely vaccinated in a timely manner.
Excellent. So Todd, you spend a lot of time with people who use smartphones as their primary mobile solution. Are you seeing in the workplace technology evolving to help them cope with COVID concerns?
We are. We might not be working using our scanning solution like Scott mentioned in Europe, here in the U.S. But what we're seeing is a lot of people utilizing our phones, tablets, and wearables to deal with either safe return to work or social distancing and responding to emergency calls. For example, in Dallas, they're utilizing our phones to do Duo, which is an Android app that allows them to handle non-911 calls from a distance. They send a link and the person can actually talk with the officer without having to be within the less than 6 feet proximity. We've also started using our wearables. You guys probably saw on a Ford commercial or a Ford CBS showcase on 60 Minutes, where we're using our wearables for return to work for manufacturing. But we've also applied that to training academies like West Point Training Academy for pilots to test this, and other law enforcement academies, so you can get people back to work. And we've also started using telehealth, our tablets for telehealth and telemedicine. So emergency responders that are going to agencies have the ability to set the person that needs help up with the doctors without having to get into the ambulance or go to the hospital if it's not life-threatening. So, and we've also seen the whole return to work from home, where you can set up a Samsung DeX and use your phone as a computer, since you have your certifications on that device. So we're really seeing a broad platform being utilized in this area. And we're really sort of trying to adapt our portfolio and our solution sets and pulling on different partners and ecosystem to adapt to those concerns. For example, in the training academies, COVID, they look at it as a 6-month sort of social distancing, but what could they use this device for? Because now they've invested in it. Well, now we can look at health monitoring and early identification of risk factors around heart rates or such. So they can feed that to their medical to follow up on. So some of the things we're trying to do to transition from the current to the long-term use case.
So Scott, let's circle back around to you, ask you to provide some insight on what you're seeing in work from home solutions, or, it's probably more fair to call it work from anywhere, but what things are you seeing that you would say, wow, this is really innovative, something new?
Sure. Well, let's be honest. Especially in the government space, work from anywhere, work from home used to be the anomaly. It was kind of rare that government workers were, I would say, even trusted to work from home. A lot of the government leaders, certainly in the agency that I came from, if they didn't see you, they weren't sure you were working as hard as you should be. Certainly with COVID and with everything that we've had going on, there's been a clear acceptance that people can be at least as effective, if not more effective, in working from where they are, as long as they have the resources that they need, and they also have a safe and secure way to get there. So in the FBI, we implemented Office 365, similar to what DoD just recently did. We did that about 3 years ago. We rolled out Office 365, and we needed a phone that had the horsepower to give us those mobility solutions and those work from anywhere solutions. And Samsung delivered that for us. It had the horsepower that we needed to run our virtual desktop and also to enable those capabilities for productivity and collaboration wherever agents and analysts were in the field.
Excellent. So Mike, given the shift to this work from anywhere perspective, what do you think will be the impact on future product development in the area you're responsible for?
Well, we're definitely seeing a really increased at the desktop. What was traditionally a 22-inch industry standard or an agency standard is really grown today to dual 24s, 27s, higher resolutions, and really the front of screen performance to see all this data that's available and wake that. And that's definitely relayed to the work from home area. Samsung will also be introducing here very shortly a set of new displays with built-in conferencing and cameras at the desktop to help with Zoom, WebEx type meetings. So we think this work from home is going to be here for a while, and these new set of products are going to help relay that technology back to home. What I do think is going to be interesting coming is the way we're in today is everybody's in the environment. What we're in is working from home, and everybody's on the same piece as we see here with this panel and our home in the background and dogs and kids and so on. But I think as we get to this, hopefully here shortly later this summer, it's going to be a mix. It's going to be a hybrid from people in the office and people from home. And Samsung will be keeping that in mind. We've just introduced a whole set of interactive learning displays that'll interact really well with this. So you can touch interactive displays, better cameras, better sound built into the displays. All this with a work from home worker in mind.
All right. Todd, having worked with you a lot, I know you spend a lot of time interacting with customers. What are you hearing from them in terms of what types of solutions they're seeking in this area?
Well, most of our agents want everything to work seamlessly and be cheaper. It's been interesting this year because of COVID and the pandemic and what it's done to budgets, where it's had this sort of shift on the tax revenue that's coming in. So there's been a bigger focus on what they can do with a single device. And that's one of the things we've been really discussing for several years, the amount of different things we can replace, the power of one, we like to call it, where you can replace scanners, laptops, desktops with a single device, and what that actually means to your IT cost savings. So we started looking at that, but then we have our advisory councils for government and public safety and sector, where we sit down and ask them for how we could modify our roadmap, which ecosystem partners we need to engage, and how we really need to plan for the future. And then their feedback has directly gone into modifications to our Samsung DeX platform, which offers some of those were like zoom features that allowed them to zoom in. So when you transition from field to vehicle to station and different touch screens. And they also helped us integrate wireless DeX. So you could, and as Mike was mentioning, some of the new monitors come with wireless DeX. So you don't even need any cables, sort of like Pinocchio, no strings attached anymore. You can do a Bluetooth keyboard and monitor. So it gives you this or Bluetooth keyboard and trackpad or keyboard and mouse. So it gives you this flexibility to be wireless. But you can also sort of transition in that aspect where you're working on your desk and then you go into a presentation room where you're presenting to command or to leadership. You can wirelessly project onto the monitors there, or ComStat or roll call when you need to do briefing. And you can do the same sort of transition out in the field for situational awareness and quick. And some of the other things we're seeing is the wildland fires. Is how can we create situational awareness over LMR networks with ATAC, which is situational awareness tool created by the government, and allows them to see where their assets are on the ground, coordinate with air support to fight these fires, and coordinate between state, local agencies as they attack these. And I think as we've seen this past year, that's an area we can really focus and try to put all our resources towards helping with their safety.
So this next area, we're going to change gears a little bit here. The term digital divide, we often hear that used in relation to educational challenges. So we'll pose the same question to all the panel members. What's being done to close that digital divide? Now, I don't know what order I'm going to call on them in, so we'll see how they can adapt here. In fact, I'm going to toss it back to Dan and just ask him if he's got a comment about the digital divide.
Sure. So in terms of how federal agencies are trying to bridge that gap, I think there's several ways. We alluded towards this reliance on call centers, and something like Medicare is a great example. The first response would typically be to pick up the phone. And the first step towards bridging that digital divide, I think, is making it easier to go to those web browsers. If you can have a chat function, if you can have someone that's going to pop up and answer your question in immediate response, it'll make it the reliance to use those tools certainly a lot more comfortable.
Excellent. Scott, what do you think? What's your position on this?
Yeah, so what people may be surprised to learn is beyond selling great handheld phones and tablets and displays and home appliances, Samsung is also involved in selling network equipment for 4G LTE and for 5G to the carriers here in the U.S. and the providers around the world. So here in the U.S., there are many underserved areas, both in underserved urban areas and then also in remote rural areas and tribal lands that need better network coverage. So the FCC has done a good job of laying out a way forward in how to meet those challenges, how to expand the network around the country to make sure that whether it is somebody that needs medical care or a student that needs access to their digital classroom, that they can do so in a way that is effective for them no matter where they live. So it's really exciting to be part of that FCC mandate and work with their carrier partners to expand coverage, broadband coverage around the country more completely.
Mike, you're the display guy. I've got to believe the schools are all about getting bigger, more effective displays. What are you seeing?
Yeah, and really just how to make it more interactive between the remote and the classroom and putting that piece together. And then, so Samsung just introduced a whole big lineup of 55-inch up to 85-inch interactive displays specifically designed for this new environment that we're in, with the school and the educator in mind, and turning that curriculum to be more digital. And then the federal agency, we're seeing really using all this data and helping with the citizen experience. And to do that, they need to have this bigger, brighter, larger displays to help do that. We've seen that early on. We've all traveled with the whole TSA, and how to go through a security line was probably kind of the first experience of trying to take that digital experience or that citizen experience. But we're seeing that growing. Everything basically from wayfinding in lobbies, from government agencies to cafeteria boards, everything with how to get all this data back to helping with the whole citizen experience.
All right. So we're winding this down. I want to challenge each of our panel members to think in terms of new solutions they've heard about, or perhaps one that's in development. And if you can, put it into a use case example for our audience. So think in terms of a new solution or one in development that will help solve a government challenge. So Scott, let's start with you on that one. What's your thoughts about a new or developing solution?
Sure. Thanks, Dale. So one of the things that I've been working on here recently is a partnership with a large cloud service provider. As Dan mentioned, a lot of work in the government is being shifted to cloud, or cloud native applications are being built out. And what we're looking at doing is finding a way to make access to those cloud resources as safe and secure as possible and as widely available as possible for our mission partners in government. So very exciting. We're a little bit early in what we're trying to do in terms of expanding how we have our Samsung devices work well with those cloud service providers, but there's a lot of good stuff coming the government's way, and also for regulated industry that have requirements like HIPAA requirements or Bank Secrecy Act requirements. We are building out pathways to make those cloud services more available, safe, and secure.
All right. Thank you. Todd, I know you spend the majority of your time working with public safety agencies, and we know how innovative those folks can be. What's a new solution that's emerging in that area that you think will solve a specific problem?
I think we have quite a few. It's funny. You mentioned they're very innovative because they come up with a lot of new ideas on things that we can do, and luckily they bring it to us, and we see if we can do that. One of the newest ones has really been, I mentioned one earlier around wildland fires, but one of the newer ones has been really around sort of mental health and safety and stress level monitoring. And we've really started working with our Suwon team to open up some of the sensors on our wearables so that we can basically send some raw data to some of these applications that are being developed to monitor stress, heart rates of responders, first responders out on the street, to sort of give a view of when there might be stress levels might be elevated, or when they might need a break, and utilizing Calm apps and some of these other type of innovative solutions to give them a breather, but being mindful of their privacy and not feeding back, that their supervisors are watching them all the time, but more around, self-monitoring. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do in that area to balance both, but yet improve the officer safety or first responder safety.
Excellent. Mike, something new, innovative?
Yeah, well, a lot of different things in trying to work with the solution, from our healthcare monitors, bringing that experience to the VA and DHA, to the patient bedside experience in the room, to really something that we were learning about earlier today is the whole VTC, or video conferencing, and working with our partner Cisco. Cisco's come out with a new certification to help integrate the displays in their system together. So it's a real trying to bring that experience remotely of a tight integration between the voice and sound and everything to bring that experience back. So we're working really closely with Cisco on their VTC and their WebEx, their hardware WebEx, and their room experience. And Samsung has just recently gained the Cisco certified classification for all our displays.
Excellent. So this is going to bring us down to our last point. I want to give each of our panel members an opportunity to just share a closing thought, something, their takeaway, if you will, from today's presentation, maybe something they heard one of the other panel members say. So Dan, I'm going to start with you. You came in with the presentation, but you've also had an opportunity to hear some of this evolving industry rep perspective. What's your takeaway?
So my takeaway would be that we constantly hear about this idea of modernization, and it seems like it's been taking place for the better half of the last decade. But I really do think we're on the brink of making significant progress. We're seeing significant developments with the intelligence agencies and their development of a multi-cloud contract or cloud provider solution. Valued at about $10 billion. The Pentagon struggling a little bit more so with their single company solution. But I do think we are on the brink of a lot of this work that has been being competed, and this push is nearing finally a significant step in progress that will benefit a great deal in the years to come.
Thank you for that. Scott, what's a thought you'd like to leave with the audience?
Yeah, so big shock here, Dale. The FBI's guy is going to say cybersecurity. Not that surprising, but seriously though, we are a mission forward partner when it comes to cybersecurity. We are here to work with our customers in the government and our customers in the regulated industry space to ensure that you are getting the most secure from the supply chain all the way through our NOC security. Everything that we do is driven toward making capabilities available to your customers and to your folks that work in your agencies and your companies to give them access to the most secure way to reach the resources they need to work from wherever they are. So that's what I'd like to leave behind with the audience.
There you go. Mike, your closing comment, your thought you'd like to leave with the audience?
Well, it highlights today the exciting time we're in. I mean, we're really in an intersection of some new technology trends with AI and cloud. We talked about that. Everything as a service and cybersecurity, as well as some government trends like telework and FedRAMP and CMMC, and then the marketplace trends of remote working and online education. And it's an exciting time to have all these three things really collide, and having Samsung solutions from all our different product groups help solve that and help the agency with their mission.
Excellent. So I want to extend a special thank you to our audience for sharing your time with us today. Special thanks also to Dan Snyder from Bloomberg Government and to our Samsung industry experts. I think we had a really nice blend of people from different working areas that brought some realistic perspective to what's going on and what's developing. So we hope you have enjoyed this segment. Thank you again for spending your time with us.